Now, over 40 suicides were reported in Gauteng schools since the beginning of the year. But now, the Provincial Education Department has announced an action plan to deal with this crisis. It has deployed 500 learner support agents. Security guards will also be deployed to 75 schools with high crime rates. But for more on this, we're now joined by the department spokesperson. Steve Mabona joins me this morning to take this conversation forward. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time, and a very warm good morning to you. This is a challenge for the department. Have you been able to ascertain what informs the number of suicides that you're currently seeing at schools?
Thanks very much. No, we've been struggling. Hence, we felt that let's have partners who will then be assisting us to make sure that we understand. To a certain extent, SADC went to certain areas and they indicated that depression, emanating from bullying, to a certain extent, it comes from family, challenges that the learners and the families will experience. That's where you then see this. So that's why we felt that let's partner with them so that we prevent, these suicide cases that we've already witnessed. I mean, over 40 learners who succumb, as a result of this. So we felt that let's have more partners. I mean, among others, we have going to deploy actually about 120 social workers, identify areas. I mean, we've got over 245 schools which are in the high, risk areas. But we have started with the 75 to say these ones, let's start with them. And moving along, we'll then be in a position to work with our partners and make sure that the learners are taken through this process, which is quite concerning for us.
Yeah, you mentioned bullying as one of the causes, or at least possible causes behind suicides. What are you doing about addressing bullying? Because it's an ongoing problem. I think even when we were in school, we know that we either were victims or we were witnesses of bullying in school. It's still ongoing decades later. But for the department, how are you addressing particularly this recurring problem of bullying?
You see, the role that parents play in assisting to raise their children and instill discipline, it's come a long way. Those that are potential bullies, as parents, we need to make sure that, make them understand on where bullying will land them to. And those that are being bullied, let's encourage them to say something about it, so that as parents and the school, we are in a position to act. Because we will not act if we don't know. Because often the time, learners who are bullied, they will be withdrawn, they will not say anything. They will probably hide it from their parents. So as parents, it's important that every day it must be our responsibility to check on how was school and do children have homework, how we're going to be assisting them. There you will detect that probably there are challenges here. I mean, we interact with parents on almost an everyday basis. There are those parents that will detect that something might be wrong here. Potential bullies, we are taking them through a program. In many schools, they expel them. But we say expulsion, it's not, the only thing that must happen. Let's make sure that we empower them. Some they might change. Take them through correctional services. We have a partnership there. Take them to the prisons. Let them see the life there. And we have actually motivational speakers who are ex-convicts who come to our schools. And we encourage them to come and just indicate on how life can be difficult if you do things in an ill-disciplined way. So those are the things that we want parents to work with us. And let's instill the code of conduct. Because all schools have code of conduct. Let's make sure that we implement. And if we are called as parents to come to a school, don't be on a defensive mode. When you arrive, you say, no, this is not my child. Yeah. You are not with your child 90%. 90% is at school. So the school will know how the child behaves.
Absolutely. The call to parents are quite important to ensure that they partner up with teachers, because teachers are overburdened. And that was my next question, to say, are the teachers, the principals, the school staff, well equipped in dealing with, situations that involve suicide or suicide attempts or mental health and well-being, as well as bullying? Because already they have a role to play in terms of academics and, making sure that the curriculum smoothly pans out to the rest of the year. But on the other side, are they well equipped to handle such matters on school premises?
That's why we tap into our partnership with especially Department of Health, look at the mental health issue, social development, social workers will be at our schools. We have community safety. To a certain extent, the safety of our learners, of our employees is quite paramount as well. So with the partnership, we'll know that we tap into their resources because we will not be in a position to have some of these professionals in our schools. And definitely, I mean, teachers, they should be focusing on curriculum. That's why we call on parents. SGBs must always make sure that they support our educators. We have our employee wellness program where our teachers, they also need some assistance. Then we unleash that. But partnership, I think it will come a long way because we'll not be, as a department, working in isolation. That's why we felt that let's have all these partners. We have a Teddy Bear a foundation as well. So we feel that the partnership with all our stakeholders and the child line, I mean, we have a number 116. Parents, learners need to know this number. 116, there are professionals there who are willing to assist on an everyday basis before you then find yourself having problems.
Yeah, I think you could use all hands on deck because 40 is quite a high number, Steve. And, when a minor or a child, an underage, pupil takes their own life, they putting almost a microscope onto a problem that can be resolved, where there are solutions to that problem. They see no way out. So empowering them with that support could go a long way because life cannot be brought back once it's taken. I want to also touch on, school admissions, online admissions. Right now, I know you're busy as a department. How's it going in terms of making sure that you meet every, need of, the school pupils, especially the grade 1s and 8s? I know those are your most challenging grades, but also there isn't a backlog next year come 3 months after school has resumed. You're still sitting with, learners that are not placed yet.
We have been saying there was about 70,000 parents who did not accept their offers. It's parents who would have probably received an offer in a school that the parent doesn't want. But you see, the trick is how do you apply to a school that you don't want? Because we said parents can apply to more than 2 schools so that they give themselves an opportunity to get a school. But then they were sitting, some waiting for those the schools that they want, and some were then received the offers. They didn't accept them. So what we did in the past week was to auto-place them. We've auto-placed all of them. Those that would have been, their 7 days would have lapsed because we started on the 4th of September. So when you count your 7 school days, if it lapsed, then we had to auto-place. So I think those that applied in day 1, 2, and 3, if they go and check in the system, they will see that they are placed. And because it's a school that they would have applied to,
right,
we will not be in a position to change that. So it gives us an opportunity. It frees actually some of the spaces. Now we can place other parents. Because parents were saying, you are talking about placement of over 228,000, but we are still waiting. So parents can go back into the system and check those that were waiting for offers, check that there will be some improvement there.
Yeah, so now's the right time to actually go into the system. Speaking of which, any difficulties you faced with the system this year around? I know in previous times, sometimes the system would be offline. There would be glitches here and there. Understanding the number in terms of capacity where a lot of parents are trying to apply probably at the same time. So that influx perhaps, influencing performance in as far as the system is concerned. But are you satisfied with the system and how it's going this year in terms of online applications?
The system is well-oiled machine, if we can put it that way. The only challenge that we have is capacity. Even if we wanted to, even if we try, it will be difficult for us to accommodate everyone in all the schools that they would have applied to. We have what we call high-pressure areas. Those areas, they have received, many applications. And we want to plead to parents to say, if you are in a high-pressure area and you have a school, embrace the school. If there are challenges that we are concerned about, let's work together as parents. SGB is there. Let's work together and change the schools for the better. If you're going to say in a school they don't teach, the entire school, they have out of 100% of teachers, you want to tell us that the entire school is not teaching. If there's one or two teachers that are not teaching, let's deal with those. But it's high time that we respect the profession of teachers. They go through a lot. We need to support them and make sure that we change things. If we say at the school there are drugs, what must happen? As a community, what is it that we are doing to make sure that we clean the school? There's alcohol abuse and all those things. If we don't partner with the department to make sure that we report, we have all the necessary stakeholders that are coming to assist us, then we won't change those schools. And there are schools that will have then a track record of being a good school. But you find that they've deteriorated to a certain extent that parents don't even realize that, because you look, the school uniform, you know, children go through the transportation, they go to that school, then you think that it's a good school. So we need to work together as parents and make sure that, to a certain extent, let's change schools that we think they're not doing well, let them do well, and then we will have not problems when coming to placement.
All right, well, Steve, we'll leave our conversation then. Thank you so much for joining us right here on Newslink. But quite importantly so, speaking about the action plan that the Department of Basic Education has already activated within the province to deal with this problem, this crisis of suicide. A number of 40, that's the number of people since the beginning of this year that have committed suicide due to, you can imagine, a variety of issues. But they say they've allocated stakeholders and partners to come into school to support the learners, but also to work alongside with the parents to deal with the scourge and prevent it, most importantly, prevent it from happening again and not let one more pupil take their lives. Steve Mabona, spokesperson of the Gauteng Department of Education.